I'm pretty excited today. I've been looking and waiting and looking for the part that I feel like it went bad on my truck. Started getting a code P003A. That was the only code I got at first. Then it was a P046. I think that's what it was. I'll show you guys in a little bit when I get around to the Scantool after we get the part changed and I clear the codes. Where the problem all started is I had left my ignition on, let the batteries run down really low, and didn't think anything about it. I saw it was on. I cut the truck off, went inside, came back out, started it the next afternoon. I was going to fire it up and go get something to eat in it. And whenever I started up, it just turned over really slow. And when it started, P003A, and it was running in engine reduced power. I drove it, I cleared the code, drove it to the end of the road I live on, cut the truck off, cut it back on, did fine for a week, drove it to Georgia, and it was still running fine all the way over there. Cut it off, stayed for a couple of days, and then fired it up, getting ready to come back home. The same thing happened again. Now, I did clear the code, cut it off, cut it back on, everything went fine again. Then I get home, and the next morning, I was leaving to go get some breakfast, and when I come out to start it up, it would not come out of engine reduced power. It would not. It just kept giving me the P003A and the P046, I believe is what it is. And everything I read and everything I could find pointed toward the turbo actuator, which is this guy right here. So I looked everywhere for one. I called every number I could get to every dealership I could find. I called everywhere from California, Minnesota, had multiple people looking for me. That part was nearly impossible to get. I found a few used ones, but they were the price of a new one or more. And then I started looking for the whole turbo. And I hope you guys aren't disappointed. I did order the whole complete turbo to get the actuator, and I was going to change the complete, just change out the whole turbo. 432,000 miles. I just didn't feel like that would be a big deal. That would be a bad way to do it. But the hurricane came through, and then they weren't able to get the turbo. My understanding is they had access to it. Hurricane comes, no access to it. Pretty much is the way I feel about it, or what I was told. So they're giving me a refund, and I ain't got the refund yet. But I did talk to a dealership in Idaho, and they did some looking around, and they found one. And I didn't expect it to get here. Today is Sunday, October the 9th. I didn't expect it to get here until Tuesday, because Monday's Columbus Day. But it actually got here yesterday, and I was out of town, and I got the email notification. Saw it this morning. I rushed straight home to get it put on, see if it fixed my problem. So here's the box. Here's the part number 127-08802 for the turbo actuator, 2018 Chevrolet Silverado L5P Duramax. I've not opened it up yet. We'll do that now. That'll be all I need if I pull it out and it's the wrong part. So far from here, it looks to be good. Alright. Oh yeah. That's it. So, this is it. The old one does have 432,000 miles on it. Here's what it looks like. Now, on the back side, I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but there's a nut on the old one that goes in here. Be careful not to drop that nut. First thing I'm going to do is disconnect both batteries, 10mm. Just take the negative off. You don't have to loosen it up much, and then pull this cable off. Make sure when you put it, wherever you put it, make sure it's not going to come back up after you move away and get back against that ground. Now we're going to disconnect battery number 2. It's kind of at an angle. It's still 10mm. Just get in here and like I say, I'm just removing the grounds. Both batteries are disconnected now. We can move on top to the actuator. Now, I don't have a top side creeper, but anybody that knows me or watching my videos know that I wear out one of the tire steps. That's very handy in a position like this where you're working on something in the center of the engine. It's not a top side creeper, but it helps. After watching the other video, I found out about the nut being in the back of the actuator arm. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a piece of black Gorilla Tape and go ahead and put in behind this arm. Maybe you guys have got a better view than I do at this point. You don't want to drop that nut out of the back of there, so just pull that down as tight as you can get it. I believe that'll be okay. And I'm pretty sure this is a 6mm. It's the closest thing I got. I don't have the exact size to fit it. Now, guys, in full disclosure, I did take this off because I wanted to make sure the actuator arm wasn't stuck on the turbo, built up with soot and stuck, causing the actuator not to be able to move it. And that wasn't the problem in my case. The actuator arm moved really, really smooth, really free. And I put this back on basically just to have it on here so nothing got lost or damaged. But I did leave 2 of the nuts off, and I'll show you that here in just a few minutes. But this just unscrews with the Allen head, and like I say, I'm pretty sure it's a number 6. Once you get that out, I wouldn't put a lot of pressure on it or you'll knock that nut off the backside. Now we're going to take our 10mm on our Milwaukee ratchet. On this top one, you will have to push the actuator over to get into this one, to get a good shot at that one. But I do believe that's one that I've already taken out. And I have one right here. Be careful with these nuts, you don't want to drop them. I did drop one, but I was lucky enough to recover it. And I'm pretty sure the other one is right here. That has the actuator loose. The only thing that I haven't got yet is the plug on the front. Sometimes you have to take a small pick or something, go in the back side of this plug and lift up on that gray tab. But I was lucky enough, I just pushed in and pulled out and it released. So pull this around where it's not going to get hurt. Here's the new one, here's the old one. The tape that I put on to hold the nut, go ahead and peel it off. Pull it out. There's your nut. Set this one to the side. Bring the new one over. Go ahead and slip the nut, turn it until it falls back into position and locks in. And I'm gonna go ahead and put the tape on there again onto the new one. I'm trying to make sure it's stuck pretty good because when I push that rod in there, I don't want to push it out the front and drop it. So I want to make sure the tape is actually held pretty good. That's really all there is to it. We're gonna go ahead and stick the new one back in now. One thing I do want to show while I got the actuator off is pull and push this rod real easily in and out of the turbo, or actuate that lever down there and make sure everything's free, no sticky spots. And mine doesn't have any sticky spots, it is very free. So that is another reason that I decided I didn't decide to go ahead and do just the actuator. I couldn't get the turbo. So when I go to put this back in, pretty much just drop it back in the same way it came out. I'll have to push this rod down and get it past the bracket. And then line my holes up. And just wiggle it in. May have to reach back here and push that actuator arm back down and center it up a little bit to get all 4 of them in, but it's not a big deal. There it is. The next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and start this. That way if I need to, I can wiggle that around a little bit. I shouldn't have to, but if I need to, and I can tilt it back some to work the Allen wrench a little better. Tilt it back a little bit. I don't believe it started. I believe it's tight. When I tighten this up, put a little pressure on that actuator and pull it up till it's tight. I'm not trying to break it, I just want to make sure it stops moving. And then pull our tape off because I don't want it getting down there and binding something up. And my camera went dead on me, got hot and cut off on me. So I went ahead and put the other 3 nuts on right here, and right here. They're very self-explanatory. And I still have the hard one to get at, because you have to push the rod over and then come in here and get at it right from the very top. Now when I do that, I go very slow and make sure that it is threading on correctly. I'm not just gassing on it, hoping for the best. Now I'm going to put that on a regular ratchet. Just so much easier with the Milwaukee to get in there and get them started. Like I said, not trying to put so much pressure on breaking them, just trying to get them good and tight. And the tape that I put on these is probably going to stay, because I don't have a good way to get the tape off. And I feel that if I have to take it off again, the tape may actually help. So hopefully that won't happen, but I try to get in there and pull it off. I may take a pick later and try to get in there and get it off. But for right now, I just want to see, does this fix the problem? Yep. Come back and mess with that a little bit later. So all we got left is plugging it up. It was as simple as taking this off, taking the 4 nuts off, unplugging it, sliding it out, slide the new one in, put the rod on, put the 4 nuts on, and plug this in.
Now we get our battery cables put back on, and we'll be ready to check the codes, clear the codes, and fire it up.
So these are the codes from before. I've still not turned the ignition on. Since I got in the truck, I did read the codes right before I got in. P003A turbocharger boost control A circuit performance range performance. P2599 turbocharger boost control position sensor A performance stuck high. And then it's got those same codes again. It's got P003A, 2599, and 0046. And those are all to do with the boost position sensor A. So let's go ahead and turn our ignition on. And I've been in reduced power for days. So we see that it's still in reduced power, showing emission system and the owner's manual. So now we're going to go in here and clear DTCs. I may need to read them again and clear them again, but we're going to start with this. Alright, so it has 3 permanent codes. The check engine light went off. Now the check engine light is back on. Engine reduced power, and it's because of those 3 codes right there. So start it up and let it go through its cycles a little bit. Okay, we got it started up. I'm going to go ahead and clear the DTCs again. I know you're not supposed to do that while the vehicle's running, but Check engine light went off. Emission system and low power is still on. Check engine light just came back on. So a little live data. May take it a second to read, and I'm gonna find the vane position, and then I'll be back. All right, guys. So these codes wouldn't go away, and there was those codes in permanent, and they're also just those codes by themselves, not permanent. So I cleared the codes, no good. I looked at the vane position sensor on the live stream. It was not moving. It was like it was stuck. And I cut the truck off and I cycled the ignition a few times. I called and talked to a friend of mine that's a mechanic, and he was telling me it needed to have a relearn done on it, he thought. But I didn't hear it cycling at all. Like when you cut the truck off, you'll hear it. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but you'll hear the little actuator rod moving. But I do hear it working now. And fired it up, and check engine light was gone and everything else was gone. So we're gonna pick our toys up and get all the tools put up. We're gonna take it for a test drive. Hopefully it'll do good. Even though I say that, these codes are still not gone. But I've seen it before where after you get something, you have an issue and you fix the issue, these codes will go away on their own. But anyway, I'll get the tools picked up and then we'll see what happens. Bottom right hand corner is a vane position sensor, or vane position. Flat footed on the floor. Things seem to be working like it should. Sorry about it moving around, but I have a mount where it'll get that edge here. Need back into it. Working like it should. So we went for a road trip. We went to Sonic. We went to O'Reilly Auto Parts. We went to Dollar General store and cut it off probably about 8 or 9 times and start it back up. No fault codes detected. That is what I wanted to see. And when you start it up now, no reduced power, running like a champ. Everything seems to be back happy again. So it is the next day. I had driven it about 20 miles yesterday, cutting it off, cutting it back on. Everything seemed to be fine. The permanent codes went away. I remote started it first thing this morning and let it fire up and go through its remote start cycle and cut itself back off, because it won't start if the check engine light's on. So as soon as I heard it fire up, I assumed everything was okay. Came out a little while later on, and I've been driving it around running errands. I've drove it about 25 miles a day, cutting it off and on every time I get a chance. Probably have cut it off and started it back up 12 to 15 times. Everything seems to be fine. I bring that up because that's where I was noticing I was having the issue. If it would be running fine, I would cut the truck off when I would start it back up. I don't recall it ever giving an issue while it was running fine going down the road. It would happen as I would cut it off and start it back up. Another thing I wanted to suggest is, after I got the part installed and I cleared the codes and turned the ignition on, cleared the codes, and the permanent codes wouldn't go away, and I still had all the lights on the dash, the check engine light and all that stuff, I was on the phone with a friend of mine for about 10 minutes and I had the key in the on position. That actuator will move while the ignition is on. And I think that was part of the learning process. I didn't know, and I'm not sure that's what it was, but I would suggest when you get it installed, turn the ignition on, clear the codes, and let it sit in the on position for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Turn the ignition off, turn it back on, let it sit for another 5 to 10 minutes if you're still getting the reduced power and all that on the screen where you can't see your other screens. And I think that's what did it for me. What actually got things, I think that's where it actually had a chance to relearn itself. So, and then I started hearing the actuator going through its cycles when I turned the ignition off. So there is another really good video that I found on YouTube where another guy had done this, and I'm gonna leave a link to his video in the description, and it was a pretty good video. It's probably way better than this one. So if you want to check it out, link is in the description. And if you guys like seeing videos about the L5P Duramax and other how-to stuff, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Please hit the like button on this video. I'd appreciate it. And that's about it. If I do have any more issues, I'll let you guys know. And if not, I will let you know whenever something else does break. 432,000 miles, I'm sure it won't be long. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video.